Alrighty, guys, I am so excited today to share a personal testimony that changed the course of my entire family's life, but especially my son's. You are going to want to stick around and watch this because this is powerful and it will change your life. Stick around. This is amazing. You're not going to want to miss this. So, I need to give you a little prequel here. When my husband was a small child living in Texas, his father was a pastor of a church, and my husband was about 5 years old, and suddenly, out of the blue, he became extremely ill. He spiked a fever like extremely high. I can't remember, dangerously high. He was in extreme pain. He became stiff like a board. His body, they said. He couldn't stand to be touched. He would scream in agony. So mom and dad rushed him to the nearest emergency room. On the way there, my father-in-law and mother-in-law were praying, but my father-in-law says that as he was driving and praying, the Lord spoke to him in a still, small voice and said, "Your prayers are answered. I'm going to heal your son. I'm going to restore him." And they took my husband back, who was the little boy, to do some tests on him, but they told him he has all the signs of spinal meningitis. Now, if you don't know what that is, it is an extremely dangerous bacterial infection. This is 50 years later, and it's still very deadly today, much less back 50 years ago when they didn't have medical knowledge that they do now. So they did a spinal tap and some other tests, and they come back and they told his mom and dad, "We're sorry, but he does have spinal meningitis." His mom and dad did not accept that, and they kept praying and kept believing. And next thing they knew, his fever broke. He started getting better, started feeling better. And the doctors, nurses, they did the test again. They run more tests, and they come back and they said to his mom and dad, "This is so weird. It must have been some kind of mistake with the test because he no longer shows to have spinal meningitis. He's perfectly fine." And so that's how my husband was healed of spinal meningitis when he was just a little boy. So, modern day, my husband and I are a young married couple. We have our first child, a young baby boy. He was just old enough to be sitting up on his own. I was a stay-at-home mom, and so while I would clean house during the day or be walking around doing things, he would be sitting on a pallet on the floor most of the time with his little toys, and he would sit there quietly and just watch me. I'm walking around, and one day I noticed that one eye was following me and the other eye stayed over here. So this eye was following me and this eye was still over here. And then after a few seconds, this eye and joined the other eye. And I thought, well, that's strange. And so over the course of a couple of weeks, that increased and I kept noticing it more. And his dad noticed, and then family members, church members were noticing. My husband was preaching in the regular service that night. And as he was preaching, I was sitting out in the audience with our little baby boy. He was getting ready for the altar call. And he said, the Lord just spoke to me again in that still small voice in his head. And the Lord spoke to him and said, I healed you when you were a child, and I will heal your son also. So he told the congregation, this is what the Lord has said to me. I want Sherry, I want you to bring him up here. And he asked everybody to come up, lay hands on our baby, and pray for him. Well, we did that, and we thanked God, and we believed for his healing. There was nothing out of the ordinary that happened, you know. It was just an anointing with oil and pray for him, like we often do in the Pentecostal believing churches, the full gospel churches. So after that, I noticed immediately, like the next day, I noticed immediately his eyes were no longer doing the catch up, where one would be over here, another one would pop over and stuff. And over the next couple of weeks, family members and friends of mine that I was around, they noticed too. They said, we don't see it anymore. It's not there. But I kept that appointment because even then, as a young person, I knew how important it was to back up something like this, a healing from the Lord, a miracle from the Lord. Him to to his pediatrician. It was time for his regular well baby checkup, and while we were there, she said, "Oh, have you noticed anything with his eyes?" And I said, "Yes, ma'am." And I told her what had been going on, and she says, "Well, I can see it too. There's something wrong with his eyes. I believe he is trying to get what we refer to, not in medical terms, but what people refer to as lazy eye." And she told me she was going to refer me to a pediatric eye specialist. So we went to the specialist out of state, went to the appointment. I had my son sitting on my lap while the doctor and his nurse sat across from us. And they had little puppets, little stuffed animals. And of course, they're making their little baby noises. Oh, looky here, how people talk to babies. And of course, the doctor and nurse were having to do that, trying to get his eyes to follow them, so they could check them out. Well, it wasn't very long. And this doctor just huffed, and he just threw all these toys down, and the nurse is kind of looking, and I'm just like, okay. And he says, who sent you here? What doctor did you say sent you here? And of course, I threw my poor pediatrician under the bus and told him her name. And he said, I don't know why she wasted your time and my time, because there is absolutely nothing wrong with this baby's eye. Praise God, I still want to shout and do a little dance to this day. So exciting, so wonderful. God is still on the throne. God healed my baby's eyes, and I have documentation of that. We went back to his regular doctor. I told her what I don't remember what exactly everything I told her, but she documented it. This pediatric eye specialist documented it. We had witnesses from before and after. So this was a real live miracle, a real live healing miracle that Jesus did for my baby and for my family, and it changed our lives.